What did we just watch? If you click this video, you know the result. Jake Paul beat Nate Diaz by unanimous decision. Boxing tonight, two judges scored it 98-91, meaning 8 rounds to 2. One judge scored it 97-92, meaning 7 rounds to 3. And to be honest with you, the thumbnail here says rigged, and I'm on the fence right now. I'm really on the fence. Since the beginning of Jake Paul's boxing career, I've been so uncertain of the legitimacy of his boxing. And the reason being is I'm not in question of him as an athlete. The reason is because he goes on to fight Nate Robinson, a basketball player, Ben Askren, a retired MMA fighter who wasn't a striker to begin with. He was a wrestler. He fights Tyron Woodley, a great UFC fighter at one point, but had a terrible demise and decline. Then goes on to fight 50-year-old Anderson Silva. Then he fights Tommy Fury, takes a loss, and now he's here. He fights Nate Diaz, which in my eyes is someone who's very resilient, someone who could take a lot of damage. I thought in my analysis, I said, if this is not rigged, Nate Diaz just puts a lot of pressure on Jake Paul. He tires him out and eventually sleeps him. That's not what we saw at all. So the whole fight, to be honest, from the beginning, Nate Diaz looked atrocious. He was turning his back all the time, showboating. In the beginning, he was hurt. Jake Paul was fighting on his toes. Nate Diaz was fighting on his heels. And it was just disappointing. The first 5 rounds was the same song again and again. Nate Diaz just short, weak hooks. It looks like he was pillow fighting. Nate Diaz landing a consistent jab. Him being able to fight while moving backwards, which I said was going to be a key for him. And Nate Diaz ultimately just looking real sloppy. He looked like he ran a triathlon before stepping into the octagon. And that's my issue. In the first 5 rounds, I kept telling the live. I had a live stream, a few thousand people in there. And I was like, chat, is this rigged? Is this rigged? I felt like Aiden Ross in there. And now after the fight, I'm still uncertain. Round 5, Nate Diaz gets knocked down. A nice left hook by Jake Paul to the temple. Nate Diaz goes down. After that, Nate Diaz got like a second win. There was a few times where he was bombarding Jake Paul with punches. And even then, nothing. Just nothing. And I don't know. I don't know if I respect Jake Paul at this point. I mean, you have to because he steps in there. He's an athlete. But if Nate Diaz, through this fight, the disappointment is beyond belief. I think the fans will be extremely disappointed. I guess we'll never know. I'm so curious to see the clauses in this fight. But nothing about the entirety of this fight, the conclusion of the fight, just what we saw in the fight tells me that it's legitimate. And it leaves me with every reason saying it's all fixed. This isn't the Nate Diaz we've seen before, and the excuses now are going to be he's retired. But bullshit. He's been an unorthodox fighter forever. He has a lot of experience. He's resilient. He's used to being in bloodbaths, but he looked exhausted in round 1. That's not Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz is sloppy, I'll give you that, but Nate Diaz could go 20 rounds with somebody. It just doesn't make sense. And I mean, props to Jake Paul, I guess. He looked well prepared. He looks like he's on the sauce. He looked pretty good through rounds 1 through 7. He looked like he had the stamina, the cardio was there. But ultimately, is this rigged? You tell me. And don't forget to subscribe, guys. I'm covering everything in combat sports. I don't know what the hell this is. I'm glad I didn't pay for it. And like everybody in the live stream chat said, they put me to sleep.